right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling something called boundaryless organizations.
Yeah, have you heard of those?
I feel like it's one of those buzzy terms that gets thrown around, but what does it actually mean in practice, right?
Right.
And more importantly, like, how can it make our work lives less of a headache?
Absolutely.
So we're going to be looking at a chapter from this book, Understanding the Dynamics of the Value Chain by William D. Prezzotti.
Okay.
And it actually has this really cool story about a company that was struggling with aircraft wiring, believe it or not,
Oh, interesting.
which we'll kind of unpack as we go. But, it kind of sets the scene for all the things that can go wrong when you have these, like,
Traditional structures.
yeah, exactly, the silos,
Yeah.
where it feels like every department's off doing its own thing. So before we get into all that wiring mess, what exactly a boundaryless organization?
Right.
Like, where did this term even come from?
It's interesting. It's an idea that was popularized by Jack Welch,
Oh, yeah, the GE guy.
the former CEO of General Electric, exactly. And he kind of envisioned these companies where the walls between departments and even between the company and its customers are like more porous.
More fluid.
More fluid, yeah.
Yeah.
More communication, faster decisions, a company that can adapt quickly.
So it's the opposite
Yeah.
of, like, the classic bureaucracy
Yeah.
with all the strict hierarchies and the rules.
Right, because I mean, we've all worked in places like that.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, each department is its own little kingdom.
Yeah.
But wait, wasn't it Max Weber who said bureaucracies were supposed to be efficient?
He did, and his ideas like clear roles, rapid decision-making within departments were influential for a long time.
Yeah, they made sense on paper.
They did, but the problem is research, like the work of Ashkenaz and his colleagues,
Okay.
identified that these seemingly efficient structures often create four major dysfunctions that can make companies really struggle.
Ooh. Okay, this is getting good.
Yeah.
Lay it on us.
Yeah.
What are these dysfunctions?
All right, so number one is slow cycle times.
I've definitely experienced that one.
Right. It's where work bounces back and forth between departments, causing delays. It's like playing email ping pong and nothing actually gets done.
Yep, been there.
And then you have the second dysfunction, protected turf.
Ooh, I've seen that one too.
Yeah, departments become fiercely protective of their own area, leading to a lack of cooperation and some serious office politics.
Ugh, it's like everyone's building their own little empire. So what are the other two? I'm kind of scared to ask.
Well, the third one is suboptimization of goals.
Okay.
And this is where each department might be doing well on its own, but it's actually hurting the overall company's objectives. They're focused on their own little game, not the big picture.
Ouch. And the last one. Please tell me it's not as bad.
Well, it's called the enemy within syndrome.
Oh, that sounds ominous.
Yeah, this is where departments view each other with suspicion, creating a toxic environment where collaboration is almost impossible.
Okay, wow, that's rough. So with all of that in mind, let's get back to that aircraft wiring story.
Right, because it really highlights how these dysfunctions can play out.
Remember, this company was having problems with something that seems pretty basic on the surface. Aircraft wiring.
Yeah, a seemingly simple component.
Right. And it all started because the engineers designed a wire with a ceramic coating. They thought they were doing the right thing.
Trying to optimize performance.
Exactly. But what they didn't realize was that this seemingly small engineering choice was about to trigger a whole cascade of those dysfunctions.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, buckle up. So first we have those slow cycle times.
Yeah, all the back and forth between the buyer, the engineers, and the production lab
So much wasted time.
created huge delays in actually getting the wiring. It was a communication nightmare.
And then, of course, the protected turf issue reared its ugly head.
Right. The engineer who designed the wire was totally resistant to input from the buyer, didn't trust the production lab to test it properly. Very territorial.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Mm.
And then on top of that, we have the sub-optimization of goals playing out.
Oh, yeah, big time.
The engineers were so laser-focused on their performance metrics that they totally disregarded the cost implications for the supply management department.
And don't forget the production challenges for the manufacturing team.
Exactly. Classic example of a department winning its own little battle, but maybe losing the war for the company.
It's a common problem.
And to make matters even worse, they had a full-blown enemy within situation going on.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst.
The engineers basically saw the production lab as an obstacle rather than a partner. Ooh, what a mess.
Yeah, and this is why the whole idea of a boundaryless organization is so compelling. It's about breaking down those walls and building a culture of collaboration.
It makes sense, but how do you actually do that?
Yeah.
Shifting an entire company culture is a pretty massive undertaking.
It is, but it all starts with understanding those core dysfunctions we talked about and then finding ways to address them.
Okay, so in the next part, we'll get into some of those strategies, right?
Exactly. We'll explore how to start building a more integrated, boundaryless environment.
Sounds good. I'm ready for some solutions.
Me too. It's all about finding ways to make work less frustrating and more productive for everyone.
So, in part one, we dove into those nasty dysfunctions that can really make a company struggle. Like when departments just don't talk to each other?
Yeah, those silos can really mess things up.
Big time. But how do we actually break out of those silos? How do we build those bridges? In the book, they actually use this term, horizontal integration.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It's all about streamlining processes and communication across different functions in the company.
Okay, so instead of each department being its own little island,
Right.
they're all kind of connected, working together like pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And when those pieces fit together well, the whole company just runs smoother, more efficiently.
It's like a well-oiled machine. So how do we get to that point? How do we actually make horizontal integrations happen?
Well, one really effective strategy is to create cross-functional teams,
Yeah, I like where this is going.
where you bring people from different departments together to work on shared projects.
So you're basically breaking down those departmental walls and creating teams with all these different skills and perspectives.
Exactly. And this way, you can tackle challenges that span multiple departments, ensuring that the solutions you come up with actually work for everyone involved.
Makes sense. You get everyone at the table from the start.
Right. It's much more efficient than each department trying to solve problems in isolation.
Oh yeah, no more reinventing the wheel every time.
And communication is still key, of
Of
course.
course, that's like the foundation of everything.
Another crucial element is to make sure you've got really clear communication channels between departments.
Okay, so what, like regular meetings?
Yep, regular meetings, maybe creating shared online platforms for information, or even just encouraging informal networking.
Oh yeah, like building those relationships between colleagues.
Exactly, because when communication flows freely, it just breaks down barriers naturally.
And it creates that sense of camaraderie, right?
Absolutely. It's all about building a stronger fabric for the whole company culture.
I love that.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, boundaryless organizations aren't just about internal stuff, right? They're also about those connections with the outside world. Customers, suppliers.
Absolutely, and that's where external integration comes in.
Oh, okay, so now we're expanding the circle even further.
Exactly. It's about extending those same principles beyond the walls of the company.
So instead of looking at customers and suppliers as separate, you see them as partners, part of your ecosystem.
Precisely. It's about involving them in the design, development, and delivery of your products and services. Like they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
It's a great quote. And these days, you got to go far if you want to stay ahead.
For sure. So how can companies actually put this external integration into practice? Well, one way is through joint ventures or strategic alliances with customers or suppliers.
Oh, okay, so you're literally teaming up.
Yeah. It lets companies pool resources, share knowledge, really work together to achieve those big, hairy, audacious goals.
The win-win.
Exactly. Another great approach is to create customer advisory boards.
Or supplier councils.
Yep, where you get representatives from those groups to provide feedback and insights directly to the company.
So instead of guessing what people want, you're actually asking them. That's a novel idea.
And it's all about building relationships based on trust and transparency.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But, let's be real. Shifting to this boundaryless way of thinking and operating can be a big hurdle for some companies, especially those that are stuck in their old ways.
Oh, yeah, those that are used to those traditional hierarchies and rigid processes. It's a big shift.
And that shift starts at the top, right? It starts with leadership.
It does. Leaders have to set the tone and create the environment for it to happen.
Okay, so where do they even begin? What's step one?
Well, step one is to clearly articulate the vision for this boundaryless organization.
So they need to paint a picture of what this new way of working looks like and why it matters.
And not just talk about it, they need to live it.
Right.
Lead by example.
Walk the walk, right? I like that.
Actions speak louder than words, always. But leaders also need to provide training and development opportunities so people have the skills to thrive in this new environment.
Okay, so skills like communication, collaboration, problem solving, adaptability, stuff like that.
Exactly. Those are the essential skills for navigating a world where boundaries are more fluid and collaboration is king.
It's like a whole new way of working. But how do you get everyone on board? How do you overcome that resistance to change that inevitably pops up?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Change can be scary for people.
It can. One key is to involve employees in the change process right from the get-go.
So don't just spring it on them.
Don't spring it on them. Get their input, listen to their concerns, make them feel like they're part of the solution.
You got to build that sense of ownership.
Exactly. And it's also important to highlight those early wins.
Oh, yeah. Celebrate the successes.
Yeah, showcase the benefits and prove that this new way of working actually delivers results.
People need to see that it's working.
Absolutely. Seeing is believing, as they say. So this is a lot to digest.
It is. We've talked about horizontal integration, external integration, leadership, communication, and even how to deal with resistance to change.
It's a lot, but it's all connected, and it's all about creating a workplace that's more agile, more innovative, and ultimately more customer-centric.
That's a tall order, but I'm getting the feeling it's worth the effort.
It definitely is. Now, before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, I want to leave you with something to think about. Think about your own work environment for a moment.
All right, everyone, take a minute to think about this.
What are some specific steps you could take, maybe even just starting tomorrow, to promote a more boundaryless approach?
It could be something small, even just reaching out to a colleague in another department.
It's all about taking those small steps, those little acts of integration that can create a ripple effect.
And who knows, you might just start a revolution. Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. We've talked about what boundaryless organizations are, why they matter, and now, in part 3, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. What can you actually do to make your work life more boundaryless, even if your company as a whole, isn't quite there yet?
Right, because it's not always about some huge top-down initiative. Sometimes it starts with us.
Yeah, like bottom-up change.
Exactly. It's about fostering this culture where everyone feels like they can contribute.
So how do you do that? Where do you even start?
Well, one of the most important things, and this is kind of the foundation, is fostering what's called psychological safety.
Okay, I've heard that term, but can you unpack it a little bit? Like, what does that actually mean for, say, someone listening right now?
Basically, it means feeling like you can speak up, share your ideas, even, make mistakes without being punished or judged for it.
Right, because you can't really innovate if you're terrified of getting it wrong.
Exactly. When people feel psychologically safe, they're more likely to share those unique perspectives, challenge the way things are done, experiment a little. That's where the real boundaryless magic happens.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you actually build that kind of safety? I'm guessing it starts at the top, right?
Oh, absolutely. Leaders, they set the tone. They need to model vulnerability themselves. Admit when they don't know something, encourage healthy debate.
So basically create a culture where it's okay to not be perfect.
Exactly. Ask questions.
That's a big shift for a lot of workplaces.
It is, but it's so important. And it's not just about what leaders say, it's about what they do, right?
Lead by example.
Yeah. Do they actually create space for open dialogue? Do they respond well to feedback, even the tough stuff?
It all comes down to trust and respect.
It does. If you don't trust your colleagues or your boss, you're not going to feel safe sharing your ideas.
You're going to keep your head down.
Yeah, and that doesn't help anyone. Another important thing is encouraging a growth mindset.
Yeah. The idea that our abilities aren't fixed, we can always learn and grow.
Exactly. When people embrace that, they see challenges as opportunities instead of threats.
So it's like shifting from fear of failure to a love of learning.
That's a great way to put it. And in a boundaryless organization, that mindset is essential because you're constantly trying new things.
It's all about experimentation. Okay, so those are some big picture ideas, but what about some practical steps that, someone listening can start doing today, even if, like I said, their company isn't totally boundaryless yet?
Yeah, totally. There are things you can do right now to make a difference. First, be intentional about breaking down those silos in your own work.
Okay, give us an example.
Reach out to people in other departments. Ask questions. Find ways to collaborate on projects.
Be proactive. Build those bridges yourself.
Yeah, and be a champion for knowledge sharing. Share your expertise, document your processes, mentor others. Make knowledge a communal resource, not something you hoard.
Yeah, everyone benefits when we all share what we know.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of simple curiosity. Listen to others, ask questions, really try to understand different perspectives.
Like active listening, right?
Yeah.
Being present, engaged.
Totally. And finally, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Ooh, a little bit of healthy disruption.
Yeah. Ask why things are done a certain way, suggest new approaches. You never know what kind of spark you might ignite.
It's about pushing those boundaries, even in small ways.
Exactly. Because this whole boundaryless thing, it's a journey. It's not like you flip a switch and you're there.
Right. It takes time,
It does. It takes effort. It takes a willingness to embrace new ways of thinking and working.
but the rewards, as we've discussed, they can be huge.
They can, both for the company as a whole and for each individual.
It's about creating a workplace that's more dynamic, more innovative, and ultimately more fulfilling.
Well said.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive. It's been really insightful. I feel like I've learned a lot, and hopefully our listeners have too.
It's been my pleasure.
And to everyone listening out there, we hope you feel inspired to go out and break down those walls, build some bridges, and make your work life a little bit more boundaryless. It all starts with you.